Today I thought I'd share a list of my picks for the top 8 strongest, most powerful Sith ladies of all time. Here are the animated stories for these Star Wars girls. The list isn't in any particular order, but they are the 8 strongest, of that have no doubt. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Star Wars lore content and animated stories. Darth Traya, also known as Kreia, was a female Jedi Master who turned Sith Lady and established a Sith triumvirate. She ruled over the remaining Sith after their defeat in the Jedi Civil War. Before the Mandalorian Wars, Kreia was a Jedi Master working as a Jedi historian, and she was the tutor of many Jedi students who opted to follow the Jedi Knight Revan to battle against the Mandalorians in an unsanctioned way. Because of this, the Jedi High Council exiled her. Note that Kreia was also the master to the powerful Jedi Knight Revan himself for a time, and so she went after him and arrived at Malachor V, being drawn in by the Force echoes. At the source of the echoes was the Trayus Academy, a Sith academy which helped corrupt the then Jedi Master, turning her to the dark side. She searched for Force wounds and found 2 Sith to be her apprentices. These Sith Lords were Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus, both of them 2 powerhouses and among the strongest Sith to have ever existed. It was with Sion and Nihilus that Darth Traya formed the Sith Triumvirate, which aimed to destroy the Jedi Order and rule over the galaxy. An alliance with the strong is never to be trusted though, and Nihilus betrayed her alongside Sion, stripping Traya of her connection to the Force.
There are dark places in the galaxy where few tread, ancient centers of learning, of knowledge. But I did not walk alone. To be united by hatred is a fragile alliance at best. But my will was not law. There were disagreements, ambition, and hunger for power. There are techniques within the Force against which there is no defense. I was cast down, stripped of my power, exiled. I suffered indignities and fell into darkness.
Now Darth Traya was exiled by both Jedi and Sith, and she turned bitter and resentful. She ended up wanting to rid the galaxy of the influence of the Force, and took up the name of Kreia once more. It was at this point she got to know one of the strongest female Jedi Knights ever, the ex-Jedi General, and now exile Meetra Surik. Darth Traya found Surik to have enough power and potential to carry her plans, and so she got close to Surik, trying to alter her way of thinking along her journey on the Aben Hawk. She helped Surik finding Zez Kyle, Brook Lamar, and Kavar and revealed herself as a Sith Lord in their presence, severing their connection to the Force and killing them in the Jedi Enclave's ruins on Dantooine. Once this deed was done, she went to the secret Jedi Academy on Telos 4, convincing Master Atris to turn to the dark side. Surik was underestimated though, and she managed to redeem Atris and kill Nihilus, the ruling Dark Lord of the Sith, and the biggest threat to the galaxy since Sion had already been defeated. She then pursued Traya, killing the Darth where her own path began, at the Traya Sith Academy. Here's Darth Traya's final lesson, her last confrontation with Meetra Surik.
At last you have arrived. Is Malachor as you remember? You no doubt have many questions. I would be a poor teacher if I did not give you the answers you seek here now. I never destroyed Atris. She had destroyed herself. I merely stripped away the illusion and brought her truth. Her teachings could not be allowed to continue, and like Malachor, she was part of your past, unresolved. She needed to be something you could confront and and defeat one last time. It was part of your training, part of what was needed to make you complete. And there must always be a Darth Traya. The galaxy needs its betrayers, especially in the times to come. She loved you, you know, as one loves a champion. You were all that she could not be. It is all that is left unsaid upon which tragedies are built. More echoes traveling through the Force. It is said that the Force has a will. It has a destiny for us all. I wield it, but it uses us all, and that is abhorrent to me, because I hate the Force. I hate that it seems to have a will, that it would control us to achieve some measure of balance when countless lives are lost. But in you, I see the potential to see the Force die, to turn away from its will, and that is what pleases me. You are beautiful to me, Exile. A dead spot in the Force, an emptiness in which its will might be denied. I use it as I would use a poison, and in the hopes of understanding it, I will learn the way to kill it. But perhaps these are the excuses of an old woman who has grown to rely on a thing she despises. From the moment you awoke, I have used you. I have used you so that you might become strong, stronger than I. I used your death to deceive the Sith, to make them believe they had won, so they would turn on each other. I used you to keep the Lords of the Sith from condemning the galaxy to death with their power unchecked. I used you to lure them to Telos, where they could be at last fought and killed. I used you to reveal Atrus's corruption, so that her teaching could be ended before it began. I used you to gather the Jedi so they could be destroyed, and I used you to make those who wounded me reveal themselves, so they could be killed by the Republic. Perhaps you were expecting some surprise, for me to reveal a secret that had eluded you, something that would change your perspective of events, shatter you to your core. There is no great revelation, no great secret. There is only you. In times past and in times future, there are Jedi who will stop listening to the Force, those that will try to forget it but maintain unconscious ties, and those, as in the past, just as I, who have had the Force stripped from them. But no Jedi ever made the choice you did, to sever ties so completely, so utterly, that it leaves a wound in the Force. It was a mistake to try to make you feel it again. I see that now. There is no truth in the Force. But there is truth in you, Exile, and that is why I chose you. I have thought of this moment more than you know, and I wondered if here, at this ending between us, if you would care enough to try to save me. If a Jedi could find it within themselves to spare one who has fallen so far. I wanted you to say those words. For that I am grateful. But I do not want your mercy. I want you to break. Perhaps it is merely your perceptions of me that have changed. It is strange that you believe Malachor has not. But it has always been timeless to you, this place, and words have always been inadequate for the horrors that took place here. The apprentice must kill the master. If you do not, I will kill you. If I do not, then all you have achieved will be as nothing, as empty and as violent as Malachor itself. There is more than death in this galaxy, and you shall not find it easy. It was difficult to draw you here, but it had to be done. This place is your last test. It is the graveyard of the past, where you lost everything. It is the dark place in your mind that still echoes of failure. Now we shall see if you can overcome the weight of Malachor and silence the echoes that beat from its heart. Finish this. Kill me. If you do not kill me, I shall end you. I died long ago, and now the circle is complete. Strike me down, and at last end this. You have strength, but you have yet to learn the full extent of power. You will not show me mercy. I will see you break before you do. It is done. At last it is done. You are greater than any I have ever trained. By killing me here, you have rewarded me more than you can possibly know. It is enough what you have done, from now into the future. Many choices were there, but you made the right ones. I had hoped you would follow Revan's path, but you and Revan are different, and your path is your own. You may take one of the ships that orbit Malachor and depart this place, or you may remain here on Malachor and wait for the others, those touched by the Force, who will come in time. Or you may return to your exile, where your presence will no longer affect the actions of others. There is no dishonor in any of these choices. I only ask that you make the choice without regret.
As a curiosity fact, know that Darth Traya was initially planned to be Master Atris from the Jedi Academy, and only at the last minute did the story developers shift towards making Traya the Darth instead. There is a model in the Knights of the Old Republic 2 game files of Dark Side Atris labeled Darth Traya as proof. Rain was born on Somav Rit, and it was there she was recruited to fight for the Jedi on their Army of Light. During a battle, she was separated from the Jedi group when the Sith attacked, and she was left for dead. However, she was rescued by Law, one of the natives of Ruusan, the planet they were in. The Sith forces then unleashed a force storm on the surface of the planet, and Rain survived by intuitively creating a force bubble protecting both her and her rescuer Law. Sometime after these events, Law was killed by Jedi scouts and Rain snapped, killing the Jedi and falling to the dark side. When this happened, Lord Khan's thought bomb already had exploded and all Sith were killed. This was an event that changed the Sith Order and you should know about. Don't forget to watch the video I made about it after watching this clip. Feeling Rain's rage and anger, as well as Force vibrations, the only remaining Sith Lord, Darth Bane, was lured to her. Rain became Bane's apprentice and adopted the name Darth Zannah. Darth Bane started teaching Zannah and sending her on missions to increase dissent among the Galactic Republic. Zannah infiltrated, kidnapped, manipulated and terrorized the Republicans in Bane's name. Darth Bane had a parasitic infestation that was becoming serious, and Zannah was tasked to infiltrate the Jedi Temple to obtain info on the creatures. It was during this mission that Darth Zannah encountered Darovit, her cousin, who told her he had already alerted the Jedi to her presence but even so fled with her meeting her new master. The Jedi followed them and so they all prepared to face them. It was a massacre and all Jedi, despite numerous, were dead on the ground. This was costly as Darth Bane was gravely wounded and almost dying. Zannah grabbed Bane and went to Ambria, threatening to kill the local healer if he wasn't able to save her master. After the healing was done, she killed the healer and used her dark powers to make Darovit mad. The Jedi, on their tail, were then convinced Darovit was the Sith Lord and killed him, which made the Jedi think all of the Sith were finally dead. With no witnesses to Zannah and Bane, the pair was relieved of the pressure. They trained in secret over 10 years, and Darth Zannah became a very strong Sith sorceress, equal to her master in power. Darth Bane was beginning to think she lacked the initiative and ambition to take his place, but he didn't know she was already plotting it now. She had found a dark Jedi, Set Hearth, and took him as her secret apprentice, going with him to face Bane. Bane, however, had been captured, so she infiltrated his place of imprisonment and dueled him. The duel was a draw as they had to flee before it was completed. Bane had a bit of time to adapt, so he took on a new apprentice, Darth Cognus, and the pair met with Darth Zannah on Ambria, where Cognus told them that whoever would win the duel would become her new master. Darth Bane was a very powerful fighter, and Darth Zannah was overwhelmed by his vicious attacks. However, she turned it around with her sorcery and force knowledge and was able to repel Bane's last move that aimed to transfer his essence into her body. Darth Zannah was now the new Dark Lord of the Sith, or the new Sith Lady. She took Cognus as an apprentice and told her one day it would be her to try to take her place. She continued her master's legacy and continued to establish the rule of two as a true Baneite Sith. A name you don't hear too often and a Sith lady not many know, Darth Talon is probably one of the sexiest Sith ladies who ever existed, and a dark side user you'll never forget. Talon was born on Korriban as a Lethan Twi'lek, a rare species of Twi'lek with red skin and yellow eyes. Throughout her life, she was both apprentice and master, swearing allegiance to both the One Sith and the Sith Empire. Her masters were Darth Ruin and Darth Krayt, while her apprentice was none other than Cade Skywalker. As you well know, Korriban is an ancient Sith burial world where the Sith always feel drawn to, and that's where the One Sith had their Sith Academy, where Talon trained under Darth Ruin. It was clear throughout her training that Talon's abilities better served the role of assassination, and as such, she was transformed into a Sith assassin, fully bound by the tenets of the One Sith. The founder of the Order, Darth Krayt, was her idol and inspiration, and her loyalty towards him was unshakable. He was after all the Dark Lord of the Sith. When Talon was completing her training with her Twi'lek master Darth Ruin, Krayt gave her an order to kill her former master. Talon did so without a thought, as she was loyal and but an instrument of the Dark Lord, and therefore her new master Krayt elevated her to the rank of Hand. As a curiosity, let me tell you about the Sith tattoos you see throughout her body. They are the work of years of assassinations, as Darth Talon makes a new tattoo for each target she kills. When Talon was beginning her career as a Darth, she dueled the Imperial Knight Elka Vetter, amputating Vetter's leg and arm, proceeding to torture her sadistically before killing her and pursuing her true target of that mission, Princess Maraziah Fel. Maraziah Fel was saved by Cade Skywalker, who extracted her on his starship, and that's when things began to get interesting. Darth Talon wasn't going to let a target slip away though, and she kept on pursuing. When she found the target, she exploded any chance the princess had to escape to avoid that outcome and used her dark powers to convert a herd of Vans to her side. The herd attacked Fel and her companions. Meanwhile, her two Jedi guards, Wolf Sazin and Shadow Vao, engaged her and Darth Talon dueled them impressively. After an amazing duel, she force-pushed Vao and was free to focus on Sazin. You should note that Sazin was a Jedi Master with a lot of fighting experience, including a duel with Darth Nihil, the other hand to Darth Krayt and the companion in rank to Talon. It was upon recognizing the Jedi Master that Talon unleashed her full power, channeling a volley of Force lightning. The princess, being nearby and recognizing Elka Vetter's killer, attacked Talon with all her rage, right when Cade Skywalker launched a pile of debris towards her and launching her away. Talon fell a safe distance away but survived the ordeal. She waited for Krayt to send reinforcements, but on the light side of the Force, some were arriving as well. In comes a duo of Imperial Knights, Antares Draco and Ganner Krieg. They were there on their own accord, disrespecting orders and trying to save the princess. Darth Nihil arrived to help his fellow Hand, and both him and Talon charged fearlessly towards the light side group. Shadow Vao was already on his feet, but he had an enraged Darth Talon at his throat, and there it was. Among the confusion, Cade Skywalker slipped away with the princess again. With her mission failed, she went back to her master waiting to be executed. Darth Krayt, for her amazement, spared her life when he heard Skywalker was to blame for the rescue. He then gave Darth Talon a new mission, to capture Skywalker, who Krayt thought was the last heir to Darth Vader's blood and legacy. But here's the kicker. Skywalker went right to the belly of the beast, infiltrating the Temple of the Sith. He rescued the Jedi prisoner he wanted to rescue, who was Jedi Knight Hosk Traya, but as they were escaping, Darth Talon blocked their way, incapacitating Traya with her Force powers but being unable to do the same to Cade Skywalker. They dueled, but the duel was so intense Skywalker fell to the dark side of the Force. With his newfound powers, he furiously overpowered Talon, but Darth Nihil was observing the whole thing and force-choked Skywalker when he was distracted, saving his fellow Hand. Now a prisoner, he was tortured to fully submit to the Sith. Darth Maladi tried her best to bring him under the yoke of the Sith, but was unsuccessful, and so Krayt ordered Talon to adopt Skywalker as an apprentice and try to tame him, converting him fully. Even though Talon didn't trust Cade Skywalker, she trusted Krayt's judgment and started to train him. By now, and from all the images you've been seeing, you know Darth Talon is just too attractive, and she had the cunning of an assassin, so it's no wonder Skywalker eventually slept with her, making it one of the only times a Skywalker did it with an alien, so there's that. Unfortunately, Cade never fell completely to the dark side and eventually turned to the light again. He fought for the Jedi once again, and Talon was back at pursuing him, but could never capture or beat him again. She lived the rest of her active Sith life protecting Darth Krayt until he was murdered. Darth Nihil then took over and ordered Talon to go into hiding, which she did, and that's her story. Asajj Ventress was a bit of everything, from witch to bounty hunter, slave, Jedi, assassin, Sith and more. She was born into the Nightsister Witches, led by Mother Talzin, and she was then taken by a criminal named Halstead who took her and raised her as a slave, forcing her to serve him. However, her master was slain by pirates and she was taken by the Jedi Knight Ki Narek, who discovered her Force sensitivity while on Ratatak fighting the pirate marauders. The Jedi Narek raised Ventress as his Padawan and taught her to use the Force and to protect the people. She learned love and got a newfound taste for life. However, after 10 years have passed, the pirates striked back and eliminated Narek. Ventress lost it and went berserk, killing the pirate leader in revenge, falling to the dark side and ruling in his stead. She then gathered the attention of Darth Tyrannus, or Count Dooku, and he took her as an apprentice. During the Clone Wars, Count Dooku gave Asajj Ventress the post of commander on his droid army, and used her extensively as an assassin as she was naturally talented at it. She became known for her cruelty and proficiency at hunting and killing her targets. She wasn't only fighting small threats to the Sith and Separatist movements, but she fought titans like Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and the still Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. Continued successes from Asajj granted her favor with Count Dooku, but she had a competitor in General Grievous, who was also working his way up to Dooku's heart as well, or mind, as he wasn't their friend but someone who used them as tools, not teaching them truly as a true master would. Asajj Ventress had such potential that even the great Darth Sidious was becoming weary of her, and ordered Dooku to kill her to demonstrate he was still loyal to him. Dooku agreed and betrayed Ventress, ordering her death and leaving her for dead. Ventress survived though, and she fled to her original home, the Covenant of Mother Talzin on Dathomir. Ventress started to plot her revenge against Dooku. She tried to assassinate him but failed, and so she and Mother Talzin thought to install an agent close to Dooku. It was then that Savage Opress entered the picture, to be gifted to Dooku and help her murder him. You can see the video I made about Opress after this one ends. Savage Opress, when it was time to act, decided against helping either of them, and Ventress decided it was time to start a new life away from it all, so she rejoined her clan and abandoned all plots and thoughts of revenge. Dooku didn't forget easily though, and so he decided the Nightsisters themselves would be the target of his retaliation. General Grievous was more than happy to take his droid army to slaughter the witches, but Ventress and Talzin both survived, forced to flee to escape Dooku's purge. Ventress was now lost, with no place to return to. She was hurt and walked the galaxy looking for a purpose, and it was then that she picked up bounty hunting as a job. She even rescued Obi-Wan Kenobi from Savage Opress and his new master Darth Maul. Eventually, she met Quinlan Vos, a Jedi Master that was tasked to kill Darth Tyrannus and end the war. Ventress partnered with the Jedi Master and the pair fell in love with each other. Their assassination attempt failed and Vos was captured by Dooku, who succeeded in turning him to the dark side via torture. After they set up a rescuing operation, Vos refused to believe the darkness in him and was sent to kill Dooku again, Ventress going with him. In the end, he truly was consumed by darkness and Ventress helped him and Dooku flee from the Jedi, sacrificing herself to absorb the Force lightning barrage Dooku sent towards Quinlan Vos, who then renounced the dark side and laid her body to rest in her clan's village, the Jedi honoring her sacrifice. Vergere was a female Sith who began her career, like many others, as a Jedi. A Foch Jedi Knight, she was initially trained by Jedi Master Thracia Cholin. She then went off the map, hiding in secret for about 50 years, living among the Yuuzhan Vong, the species who used the amphistaff, a weapon I talked about in my last video you can find in this one's description. It was during this time the dark side started flowing through her. When the Yuuzhan Vong invasion started, she reappeared and was responsible for torturing Jacen Solo as she wanted him to be her Sith apprentice. During her time as a Sith lady, she was Darth Sidious' apprentice and had 2 apprentices herself. Lumiya was her official Sith apprentice, while her informal apprentice was the young man I just referred, Jacen Solo. The New Republic hunted her down and finally, at the Battle of Abak 9, she fell to the light side of the Force yet again, sacrificing herself in a battle against the Yuuzhan Vong to save her apprentice Solo. Unfortunately, it was partially due to Vergere's training that Jacen Solo fell to the dark side, becoming a very feared Dark Lord of the Sith named Darth Caedus. She warned him though, as she even confessed her paradoxical nature and bipolar personality when mentoring Jacen. She was always going back and forth from a motherly figure to a sadistic personality, although her light side personality tends to surface more often than with most Dark Lords. She was a Sith lady who focused on the mastery of the Force rather than direct combat, and she could disguise her presence as well as become undetectable in the Force. However, the real power Vergere possessed was a very rare ability called Sever Force Power, which allowed her to sever one's connection to the Force. Then there's another curiosity about Lady Vergere, which was her ability to use her tears as an antidote to various poisons and to cure various sicknesses. Those tears would come in handy with the coronavirus of these days. Finally, Vergere made her peace before dying and turned to the light side, which made her one of the enlightened beings who could turn to a Force ghost after death. There's not much information on Vergere, although we still could go over her years in seclusion with the Yuuzhan Vong and her connection to other important characters in Star Wars history.
Cognus was initially called the Huntress, and she was an assassin hired to track Darth Bane, the last surviving Sith Lord. Being good at tracking and assassinating, she found Darth Bane and paralyzed him with poison. She placed him under arrest, but had the feeling their destinies were entwined. On a trip to the prison's hangar, she found Dark Jedi Set Hearth and faced him in combat. Hearth fled, and some moments after Darth Bane showed up, having escaped. She knew Bane was stronger and she surrendered to him, asking to become his apprentice. Darth Bane accepted the Huntress as an apprentice and asked her to pick a new name for her Sith identity. She chose Cognus. Darth Cognus chose this name because she was able to perceive slices of the future, predicting some events and possible forks in the road of life. However, Darth Bane had another apprentice, Darth Zannah, and she thought the time had come to claim Bane's mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith, so she found them and battled him. Darth Cognus instantly knew Darth Bane and Darth Zannah were equally strong, and definitely stronger than her, so she didn't join the fight for the role of Sith Master, instead telling them she would become the apprentice of the one who kills the other. In the end, Darth Zannah showed the student had overcome the Master as she defeated Darth Bane. Darth Cognus immediately asked Zannah to accept her as an apprentice, telling her about being Darth Bane's apprentice, and he didn't conclude her training. Zannah picked up where Bane left, accepting Cognus as an apprentice. Darth Zannah told Cognus to grab Bane's lightsaber and use it until she was able to build one for her own. Zannah then finished telling Cognus about the rule of two, and so taught her that one day she would have to face her in a combat to the death, as that was the way of the Sith. She also said they were Bane's legacy, and as such would continue to respect his rule of two. 3 years passed while Cognus trained as a Sith before she was able to become a full-fledged Sith Master. She was able to succeed her master, and then took Darth Millennial as an apprentice, but was forced to disavow him for blasphemy after he continually disrespected the rule of two. Darth Millennial left Cognus fearing for his own life and went to Dromund Kaas to found a religion called Dark Force. So the dark side was now divided between the rule-breaking Dark Force religion and the Bane's legacy Darth Cognus, who was now free to take another apprentice. Unfortunately, nobody knows what happened to Darth Cognus and how she died, as that remains a mystery even to this day.
Shira Elan Kola Bree was a human born on the Imperial Center during Emperor Palpatine's rule. She studied and embraced the Imperial New Order tenets, and Darth Vader took an interest to her, which sped her enrollment into Karita's Academy, an academy for Imperial intelligence agents. After she was done with her training, Darth Vader himself made her a major and issued a classified mission for her to complete. The mission was to infiltrate the Rebel Alliance and kill Luke Skywalker. She managed to cause Luke Skywalker's disgrace, but she paid a high price for it as she was horribly injured and left near death. Vader recovered her mangled mess of a body and gave her cybernetic prosthetics, as Vader was no stranger to body recovery through the use of technology himself. She then took Bree as an apprentice and began training her as Lumiya, Dark Lady of the Sith. Vader made her shadow hand, in secret, and she also served under Palpatine himself. She crafted her own weapon. It wasn't a lightsaber, but a lightwhip, a rare weapon she made famous. At the end of the original Star Wars trilogy, in Endor, Darth Vader and Palpatine perished, and so she was promoted to Dark Lady of the Sith, Mistress of all Sith. She craved revenge against Luke Skywalker, the bane of her masters, and so she recruited an ex-stormtrooper as an apprentice. Sith Lady Lumiya suffered an embarrassing defeat and suffered an injury that made her replace her armor and adopt her trademark triangular headdress. After the Nagai Toph War ended, she was thought to be dead and retreated to the Outer Rim, plotting her vengeance. Lumiya started assembling a fleet to strike at the New Republic and took Karner Jax as her new apprentice, since her first had died mysteriously. Jax and Lumiya then eliminated the prophets of the dark side, but Jax was getting ambitious and plotted against Lumiya to overthrow her. He tried to assassinate her but ended up dying at the hands of Kir Kanos, a former royal guardsman. Again without an apprentice, she learned Sith Lord Vectivus's ability of summoning Force Phantoms. Meanwhile, a new Sith Order appeared on Korriban, and while on her way to join them she found the Yuuzhan Vong, who were preparing to invade. She escaped the Vong's offensive, but their attack launched the galaxy towards a spiral of chaos. She concluded that only a strong Sith Dark Lord could fix the situation, and she concluded her training by becoming Vergere's apprentice. Vergere was a Sith Lady Lumiya met who demonstrated her superior knowledge, and Lumiya was forced to admit she was superior. Both of them conspired to bring a new Sith Lord to the galaxy, deciding to bring the Skywalker family to the dark side in the form of Jacen Solo, Darth Vader's grandson. Solo eventually reached Lumiya, and she managed to make him agree to take up the Sith's way of life, falling to the dark side. Happy with this accomplishment, she was proud to reveal herself to the Jedi, and distracted them from Darth Caedus by dueling Luke Skywalker, her nemesis, and the man who ended up slaying her in combat. Darth Maladi was a Devaronian female who was born by the name of Malincha and was a Jedi Knight's daughter. Darth Krayt killed her father, and Malincha was taken from her homeworld to be trained in the dark side. Eventually, Malincha became a Sith Lady of the One Sith Order and adopted the name of Darth Maladi. Maladi, like other female Devaronians, had no horns and was pretty attractive by human standards, although not as successful with the opposite sex as her lady Sith friend Darth Talon, the Twi'lek Sith Lady that had a fling with a Skywalker and that I told you about in my channel already. Darth Maladi was a Sith Inquisitor specializing in mental manipulation, torture and interrogation, and she was so good at it she was the leader of the Sith intelligence and assassination. She was also a brilliant scientist and was always researching new ways to help the Sith cause. The mastermind behind Ixodal-Silona, a powerful narcotic, she was also hands deep in crime. When Darth Krayt usurped the Emperor's throne, she was ordered to find and capture former Emperor Roan Fel, and to capture Cade Skywalker, the last survivor of the Skywalker family. The Sith eventually captured Skywalker, and Darth Maladi was responsible for torturing him to find out where his limits were. Skywalker escaped, but Maladi and other Sith, including Darth Krayt himself, found Skywalker, but he was with the body of Celeste Morn that was also being possessed by Carnus Moor, an ancient Sith Lord whose story we already covered as well. Which reminds me to let you know that in each of my videos I add relevant videos to the video description. Check that out after you watch this. Skywalker wasn't being held there, but rather set that up as a trap. An all-out battle between the One Sith and Maladi on one side and Skywalker, Celeste and Imperial Knights on the other ensued, and Maladi was seriously wounded. Darth Wirelock saved her and took her and her fellow Sith to Coruscant to recover. Maladi was told by Darth Wirelock that Darth Krayt had survived the encounter, but Maladi felt something was wrong and didn't believe her rescuer. She then went to meet Darth Nil and asked him to go to Korriban to find the truth about Krayt, and captured Skywalker to use as a test subject, only for him to escape again, destroying her lab in the process. She was taken and woke up in the possession of Fel and surrounded by Imperial Knights. A deal was struck as she promised to help the Emperor if he'd give her Skywalker's head. The Emperor agreed after several defeats, and so she showed him the Omega Red biotoxin, a toxin that, without him knowing, Maladi had developed to kill all non-Sith within the weapon's radius. However, Fel failed to use the weapon and Darth Krayt was only then slain by Cade Skywalker. The end of a Dark Lord had come, and another took up the mantle. The Sith leadership of Darth Nil began, and Darth Maladi, Darth Talon and the rest of the One Sith went into hiding, for the time being.